So in a way, this is sort of a mock video, but I also wanted to talk about nostalgia a little bit. Actually, I wanted to touch on a little bit of my own nostalgia. As somebody who has been involved with Lego basically all of my life, and although I would say my first true Lego set was Tahu Mata, I know that I had some before that, but that's really the one that I can identify with the most. I had some various little dinosaur sets from the 90s that my parents would pick up for me when they'd go out on occasion to go grocery shopping or whatever. However, probably the first theme that I can really associate myself with in a nostalgic way, of course, and can really identify as well, is actually Lego Racers, which I didn't expect because I don't think I had my first Technic set until like 2008 or maybe 2009, but Lego Racers was something that we'd pick up in the form of like tiny turbos and little things like that. And I actually didn't get my first like full-size Lego Racer set until I was given one by a friend. So this is a sort of sub-theme of Lego Racers. I don't know if it has a specific name, but maybe you remember it too. So early on in the year of 2018, we actually got a handful of sets, I believe 5 sets from Lego Racers that were desert themed, and they all had these sort of like ramps and things that came with them. This was in fact my first of these sets, as I mentioned, a gift from a friend of mine, and I loved this thing. I don't know why. It's a very simple set. It's very straightforward in its build, in its aesthetic, and as you can see here, there were a handful of pieces that were designed specifically for this theme, not just the introduction of little vinyl ramps like this one, although this is actually from Technic 2017, very similar in its design, however. But this theme actually came with a handful of really specialized pieces that surprisingly outlived this theme for quite a while, with one exception. And I wanted to go ahead and show you one of those today, and then also show you a mock that I made inspired by these very sets. So the set I'm focusing on today is called the Ring of Fire. This is one that I actually bought used, which means that these are not the correct tires. I don't care. I do own the proper tires for it, but these look really good, and that's what it came with. So I'm gonna say, all right, that's cool. I like them. They look neat. They're a little more old-fashioned than the tires it's supposed to have, but they work, especially for this, that big kind of bulbous aesthetic to it. However, the specialized pieces for this wave specifically were all in blue in this case here. These front panels, of which there's a left and right version, you may actually recognize those from Ninjago, which use them quite heavily. Also, these side panel pieces here, which have these sort of like grill intakes on each side, which actually even were like still being used in Technic all the way back in I think 2017, 2018 with the Bugatti Chiron set. And then of course this spoiler piece, which probably and most surprisingly to me was the one that lasted the shortest amount of time, because I think that this is a really aesthetically nice looking piece, but though I get that yes, it is pretty specialized in and of itself. It also comes in the fewest colors because of the fact that it really just didn't last long in Lego outside of sets like this. But this entire theme in total, I believe, introduced 7 sets, don't quote me on that of course, with 4 of the small scale sets like this one here. This set that you saw in front of me, the Ring of Fire set, and we'll take a look at the other things it comes with in a moment. And then the second wave, if I remember correctly, there were just 2 sets, but they were larger, and each one came with 2 vehicles. One was the Desert Hammer, I believe, and it's a really fun looking set, although admittedly the cars definitely feel a bit weaker in that set. And then another one, which was 2 motorcycle builds together in a single model with a ramp that kind of like went straight up almost. And in that set specifically, the gimmick was that you could take the motorcycles apart and combine them into a vehicle on its own, if I remember correctly. Not basing this off of images, just basing this off of my own memory, because it's more fun that way. So this set specifically was a bit interesting though, because at least for the first wave, it was actually the only one to not come with a pullback motor. All of the others featured a pullback motor so that they could be sent over the ramps, but this one opted for a punch mechanism or a push mechanism. These have been around in Lego for literal decades, of course, being used even earlier than this in the early 2000s. It just uses a scissor mechanism but translates that motion down. So you hit this hard and it sends that motion forward. It's a very good, a very effective use of something like this, and I actually really like it, but obviously it takes a decent amount of parts to throw together. I do have questions about the design of it though. Most notably, why the lift arms in the center here are the thin variant. I'm not sure if there's a specific reason for that. Maybe it reduces friction or something. I have honestly no idea, but still a really cool build nonetheless. However, the thing that I think this set is most notable for is the namesake, the Ring of Fire. So let me go ahead and show you that very quick, and I'm going to apologize beforehand just because it is quite large, so trying to do this on camera is going to be a bit difficult, and I'm balancing something in my lap here as well, which does not help. But this is the build, and it comes with a very large vinyl sheet here, very thick, obviously, to support the weight of the vehicle, maybe a millimeter to 2 millimeters, somewhere in there. I don't think it's quite 2 millimeters, but close enough, right? But interestingly, with this one, you can actually take it apart quite easily because it's just using axles to slot into this hole here. And that actually works to its benefit because it means you can use this pretty easily on uneven ground, and it's just kind of going to work. The notable thing about this, though, is, as you can see, the Ring of Fire, right? You get a gear on the inside here, and essentially you pull on this. There's a little mechanism with a wind-up motor here, and as you pull this lift arm out, you're just pulling that wind-up motor. That's all that's happening. And yeah, it just spins. It actually spins at a pretty good rate too. I was not expecting it to go that fast. And of course, the Tahoe fire swords are a really nice nod in this set. They appear in one of the other sets from this wave as well. I can't remember which though. I think it's the red vehicle, the Ace Rod or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. It's a very silly one. It's probably the weakest of the wave in my opinion, but it's still a really interesting set nonetheless. And I think the nice thing about this theme as a whole, or this sub-theme I guess, is that at least for the first wave, all of the sets look really good, and they utilize these specialized pieces in really interesting and unique ways. The yellow one that I showed you is basically a smaller version of this, so it just works out as you'd expect. However, there's a green one that uses these pieces along the side of it as like a sort of side fairing. It's really interesting. The red one combines these as sort of like a front engine build for a hot rod type aesthetic. There's some really cool stuff, and I'd really implore you to look out for them and just kind of like keep an eye on them, or just look them up on Google, because they're just interesting sets, like I said, and all of them I think do a pretty good job, especially for 2008 standards, of just looking right, feeling right. You know, there are a lot of, especially in Lego Racers, there are a lot of some really just weird designs, and you'll actually see some of those in another video coming here soon, because I got this set in a bundle, really affordable as well, so I was not going to pass it up obviously for videos like this. But in general, the other sets, they don't hold a candle to this, is all I can say. So really happy with that. As I said, you can expect those in another video, but let's go ahead and focus on the mock that I made. I realized that I knocked a couple pieces off too, so I'm not sure where those are at, but this one right here is what I call the Desert Ghost, and I'm really happy with the design of it. However, I made one really major mistake because it utilizes the new version, the Technic version of the pullback motor on the inside here, just because I didn't have the system one when I was designing this. But I mounted that motor backwards, so it actually drives in reverse, which is funny. It's hilarious, but not correct. That said, it's supposed to have these exact same, what are these pieces called? I don't even know. These wedge pieces, essentially, on the sides here. It's supposed to have just half versions of them. I don't know where those are at right now. I must be using them on something. Maybe they're on my, I was going to say they could be on my, not White Lightning. What is his name? Bridge Defender from Exoforce up there, but they're not, because that one has stickers on it and this one did not. So anyway, don't know where they're at. It's very silly, but I do like the aesthetic of it. Obviously leaning like super raked forward, but it's fun. It's just a really interesting looking vehicle, and I really enjoyed making it. Like I said, Lego Racers, it definitely has some hit and miss stuff, and I do miss it in general. I think that Lego Technic going into the pullback motor sort of subgenre there for near 10 years, or over 10 years really, was a really nice nod to this, even though not all of those sets were always good, and not all of them came with these ramps. Just 2 from 2017 did. Hopefully they revisit that. But still, you got some really fantastic sets out of that line in general. And it's a good follow-up, I think, to something exactly like this, fitting the bill for builds roughly this size at a similar price point, of course, adjusted for inflation. But even for like today's day and age. Fantastic sets in general, and these sets, what's nice about them is honestly they haven't gone up a lot in price either. So again, if this is like something you guys are interested in, if you're nostalgic for any racer sets, I really implore you to take a look back again at 2008 specifically, because I do think it is some of the best of Lego racers. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Are there better? To a degree, yeah, and I think each of the years from Lego Racers really has something to offer. The Crash years are something else kind of notable, even if some of the sets look a little bit funky. And I know that was playing off a whole other gimmick from the late and mid 2000s. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did and you enjoyed this look back, make sure to let me know by, leaving a like and subscribing. You can also hit the bell for notifications wherever that's located. And of course, let me know your thoughts in this video. I'm particularly interested in if you grew up with any of these sets, or what sets are you nostalgic for, whether they are racers, other themes, or what is your equivalent to these sets. Let me know that in the comments below, and of course we can take the conversation further over on Discord, Instagram, and Patreon if you want to help support the channel and get some perks. And I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.